Warning, this episode may contain disturbing content, soothing narration, and mild existential dread. Basically, murder ASMR for stressed professionals. Listener discretion is advised. Hell, it might be necessary.
Fire has always been an absolute boon for society. It gave us light, it let us cook food, and it kept predators at bay. And even now, it's just as culturally important as it is practical. Fire built community, volunteer fire departments, places where people found surrogate family, backyard fire pits, bonfires, places where people gathered, told stories, and passed the time over melting marshmallows. But in Accomack County, fire was doing something very different. It was something people began to fear, something everyone talked about. The reason neighbors started looking at each other with suspicion. In a small rural county, a serial arsonist was at work, and there had been no slow escalation. 6 fires in less than 30 hours. In a place with no shortage of abandoned buildings, residents knew there was plenty left to burn. But in a county already struggling with economic decline, that fear hit differently. Because for many people, home wasn't a well-maintained house with fresh paint. It was something older, something worn, maybe something vulnerable. And the fires sparked a new kind of community, the online kind. Facebook groups popped up where neighbors shared information, reported suspicious activity, and most importantly, shared their theories. Or spread rumors. The arsonist wasn't just hiding within the community. They became the center of it. For nearly 5 months, as fires continued to break out, investigators moved from scene to scene, sifting through what little evidence remained, canvassing neighbors, chasing down tips, and getting no closer to answers. Accomack County was burning, and no one knew who was behind it, or why. This is part 2 of Lit by Love, the Accomack County, Virginia serial arson case, right here on Crime to Burn. Welcome to Crime to Burn, where we explore the dark city landscape where true crime intersects with arson and criminal negligence. Join us as we sift through the ashes to bring you the story of what really happened. Welcome back to Crime to Burn. I'm April, a fire protection engineer and former firefighter, encouraging you to keep your love-related crimes limited to stealing hearts. Or the cops won't be using the handcuffs on you in the fun way.
What's the fun way cops use handcuffs on you?
I'm not saying that the cops will use the handcuffs on you in a fun way. I'm saying that you can use handcuffs in a fun way, but that's not how the cops are going to use it.
So there's not a set of behaviors I can go through to make them use them on me in a fun way?
Not that I'm aware of.
And I'm emotionally attached to fictional characters and possibly ungovernable.
And you can steal our hearts by going into your podcast player right now and leaving us a 5-star rating. Written reviews and episode comments will make us absolutely weak in the knees.
That means super horny.
As of this recording, we have 71 ratings on Spotify and 72 on Apple Podcasts. So thank you to FPE Sandy and Kelly DDH for leaving us new reviews on Apple. You made us feel all warm and fuzzy inside. And we got new comments on Podbean from Jeff Luzier and Rappy Lafiti. We loved hearing from both of you again. You can also follow us on social media, TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. When you see our content, give it a like, save it, share it. Those little actions help push us through the algorithm so we can find our audience. And if you would like to help support the cost of court records, you can join us over on Patreon, where we have 3 membership tiers. Our spring sticker drop has officially been ordered, so those stickers will go out to our Patreons in the next few weeks. If financially supporting the podcast isn't in the cards for you, no worries, because we will always be free, supported by ads on your favorite podcast players. Be sure to check the link in the show notes for our spread shop, where you can find some Crime to Burn merch to spice up your wardrobe. And as always, send us your fire stories, episode feedback, case suggestions, and relationship red flags to crimetoburn@gmail.com. And last week we started talking about Accomack County, Virginia, a rural area on Virginia's eastern shore separated from the mainland by the Chesapeake Bay. It's the kind of place where fire departments are volunteer, and on average, each fire jurisdiction might see around 10 structure fires a year. But then in November of 2012, they had 6 structure fires in less than 30 hours, all of them in abandoned buildings. One fire in an abandoned home without electricity might raise some curiosity. 2 is unusual, but 6 in 30 hours? Investigators knew right away that they were not dealing with accidents, that these were arson. And in Accomack County, they did not have a fire investigator. So the Virginia State Police were called in along with their fire investigators, kicking off what would become a nearly 5-month arson spree investigation that would grow to more than 80 fires before the arsonist or arsonists were finally caught. And I warned you last week, this case involves motives rooted in what psychology would call disordered thinking, some that also involve relational issues of an adult nature. So if you've got kids in the car, now might be a good time to pause and come back with headphones, unless you're ready for some awkward conversations. And a quick reminder, all of my sources are in the show notes, but if you would like a deeper dive into this case, the best resource is the book American Fire, Love, Arson, and Life in a Vanishing Land by Monica Hesse. I have linked it in the show notes, and it is incredibly well written, and I highly recommend it. I've also reached out to Monica to see if she would be interested in coming on the show, but I haven't heard back yet. Now, Lois Gomez had been having nightmares about the arsonist in Accomack County. One night she actually dreamed that she woke up in the middle of the night and saw someone running through her yard. And then, on December 15th, she woke up in the middle of the night, just like in her dream. She walked into the kitchen, just like in her dream. But instead of seeing an intruder running across her yard, there was pounding on her door and someone yelling for her to call 911 because her detached garage was on fire. It was the 13th fire since November 12th, just over a month earlier. Lois watched as her garage burned along with all of her son's band equipment, holiday decorations, and everything else she had stored inside. But there was one strange detail. She had chickens that had been penned next to the garage, and they were all running loose in the yard. The arsonist had let them out before setting the fire. And when Monica Hesse writes about this fire, she notes that by this point, local news stations were, quote, straining their thesauruses, trying to come up with new ways to say fire and blaze, because they were reporting on fires almost daily now. Even though Lois's garage wasn't technically an occupied structure, people in Accomack County were on edge. Anyone living in a home that showed even a little wear worried it might be mistaken as an abandoned building. And some people started leaving their lights on all night, hoping it would signal, hey, someone lives here.
Pat, I want to solve the puzzle.
Yeah.
It's an angry HOA member.
They don't really have HOAs in Accomack County. It's too rural. I mean, I'm sure there's some organized neighborhoods that have them, but most of these buildings were out in rural areas, like set back in the woods. And there was another concern looming in the background. Serial offenders often escalate. With arson, that escalation doesn't always mean bigger fires, but it can mean more risk. Fires set closer together, increasing frequency, and bolder choices. Sometimes it does escalate in severity, moving from abandoned structures or cars or dumpsters to occupied homes or occupied businesses. And while not every arsonist follows that pattern, everyone in Accomack County was hoping that investigators would catch this one before it had the chance to. By fire number 17, the target wasn't abandoned. It was empty, but it was an active rental home. And by fire number 34, the fires had moved into downtown, no longer isolated or remote. But fire number 15 was something else entirely. It was set in a small house directly across the street from the offices being used by the 2 state police investigators working on the case. One of those investigators was actually on his way home from a meeting about the arsons when he saw the fire, and at the time he just happened to be on the phone with the director of the 911 center, giving them an update from that very meeting, when he stopped cold and said, "Well, man, the house is on fire, I gotta go." Investigators didn't see this as just another fire. This felt like a message, something closer to nanny nanny boo boo, or maybe try and stop me.
Nanny nanny boo boo.
Stick your head in
a hoodie.
And then the Facebook pages started popping up. Pages called, "Who is trying to burn down Accomack County?" "Arson in Accomack," and my personal favorite, "Who is setting these fires and how will they be stopped?" Very concise, that one.
Well, the situation does beg those questions, doesn't it?
Rural Virginia had become a beacon for national reporters. And you couldn't walk into a single business in the county without hearing someone, at least one person, talking about the fires or whispering a new theory. Firefighters, bleary-eyed from nights without sleep, became instant media sensations. Departments had to appoint spokespeople to handle all the press, and the community responded. People saw what this was doing to their volunteer firefighters, and they stepped in to help. Coffee, hot chocolate, granola bars, Gatorade. And when it made the news that the departments were cleaning hoses with Mr. Clean dish soap, cases of Mr. Clean dish soap showed up at the firehouses.
I didn't know Mr. Clean made a dish soap.
I didn't either. But with fires happening almost every night, volunteers realized something quickly. They needed to get sleep whenever they could, so they started staying at the stations. Not for convenience, but for survival. Every minute not spent driving back and forth was a minute they could catch a little extra sleep. Now, most of these stations weren't built for that. A few of them did have bunk rooms, but most didn't. At the Tasley station, they tried putting cots into a crawl space that had 4-foot ceilings, which worked, until people started nearly knocking themselves out trying to respond to calls. So they moved into the meeting room. Sleeping bags, camping beds, whatever they could find, wherever they could find space. And for months, these volunteers lived together, eating together, sleeping together, not like that. Working side by side, they watched movies. Eventually, somebody brought a PlayStation to the firehouse, and they started playing Call of Duty as a team. And the thing is, the volunteers who had been living and working together for months, they had an edge because they knew how to work together, and they became unbeatable. At least until the tones dropped and they had to bail for another fire. In one fire, the engine arrived well before the tanker, and they needed to lay a supply line, but there was no water yet. As we talked about last week, there were no hydrants. So they did what they could. They laid the line anyway, and when the tanker finally arrived a few minutes later, they couldn't help but laughing as they found the end of the supply line waiting for them, tied in a bow around a tree. The fires became so regular and so predictable that one night after dinner, a volunteer held up his pager and joked that it was time for it to go off, and right on cue, it did. These are all details that I pulled from Monica Hesse's book, which is exactly why this is such a compelling read. You really get an inside view of what everyone was going through. But that 13th fire, the one that happened in Lois Gomez's garage, that's the first one where we know the victim had a conflict with someone. Someone who might have had a reason to want, maybe a little revenge. Lois Gomez lived next door to Tonya Bundick. Tanya's mother had lived there for decades, and Lois and Mrs. Bundick had always gotten along just fine. And even after her mother passed, when Tonya moved into the house with her children, Lois didn't seem to have much of an issue with Tonya. Her issue was with Tanya's boyfriend, a man named Charles Smith. The two had clashed a few times. There were accusations of yard waste being dumped in ways that weren't neighborly, and those disputes allegedly escalated into something more serious. Accusations that Lois, who was married to a Mexican man and had mixed-race grandchildren, had made racial slurs toward Tanya's children who were mixed-race. Lois denied that, said it was absurd. And whether those accusations were true or not, what's clear is that there was tension between the Gomez family and the Bundick-Smith household next door. Now, Tonya had grown up in the area, but had moved away for a time. She had been in a relationship and had children, and eventually returned after her mother passed away. And by then, people couldn't help but noticing something. She had gone through what people will tend to call the ugly duckling to swan transformation while she was gone. She was, by all accounts, striking, and she liked attention. Most nights you could find her at a local bar called Shuckers, dressed to be noticed, flirting easily and drawing eyes. And Charles Smith noticed her too. But
I bet I know what part he noticed.
I don't know, but I do know that one time she just showed up in, like, lingerie. It wasn't like Halloween.
She showed up in lingerie?
It wasn't even like Halloween, like when you might be able to get away with that. Like, she just was wearing, like...
She was just looking for a catwalk to do a little turn on.
Something. Apparently she really liked attention. And Charles Smith noticed her too. But he didn't walk up to introduce himself. He admired her from a distance on several nights. And on one night in particular, Charlie did not go up and talk to her because Charlie actually had other plans. And a quick content warning here for self-harm and addiction. The night that Charlie actually met Tonya, he had several 8 balls of cocaine and he intended to use them all and end his life that night. Charlie Smith's father left when he was very young, and his mother later remarried a man named George Applegate. In fact, most people didn't even realize that Charlie's last name was actually Smith. They knew him as George's stepson and called him Charlie Applegate. But Charlie didn't have what you'd call an easy life. He later told interviewers that he never really got over wondering why his father had left. And when his mother remarried, Charlie didn't feel as important as the children produced from his mother's marriage to George, which left Charlie feeling like he didn't quite belong. Now, people on the outside said something different. They thought George treated Charlie very well and did right by him. But that doesn't always change how something feels from the inside. And Charlie was no stranger to bad decisions. Around the age of 13, he discovered that using cannabis could dull those feelings, and he had found his first love. He was high so often that he eventually dropped out after his third attempt at 9th grade. The third attempt only lasted about 30 minutes. But Charlie wasn't without skills. His stepfather, George Applegate, fixed cars for a living, doing body work. And Charlie had been working alongside him since he was only about 8 years old. He grew up more comfortable with a wrench than a pencil. And that wasn't all George had taught him. George was also a member of the Tassley Volunteer Fire Department. And by the age of 12, Charlie joined as a junior volunteer. But while he was learning how to serve his community, he was also learning how to numb himself. And as his relationship with drugs escalated from cannabis to crack, things became more unstable.
That's quite an escalation.
It was a big escalation. He ended up moving in with an uncle and then started stealing from that uncle to support his habit. And then he started forging his uncle's checks, which led to roughly 36 forgery charges and a 3-year sentence, most of it suspended. When he got out, the pattern didn't stop. It became a repeating cycle: relapse, recovery, repeat. And during those periods of active addiction, he kept getting caught stealing in order to feed it. And when police would question him, he would just confess. Even when his probation officer asked him if he was back on drugs, Charlie told him, "Don't bother testing me, I'll just admit it, there's crack in my system." And despite all of that, people couldn't help but really like him. His probation officer really liked him. Others described him as polite and almost guileless, with a kind of quiet hopefulness about him. After his first time in prison, Charlie got into a relationship and had a daughter. And more than anything, he wanted to be a good father. And when she was young, he showed up. He was present. He shared the responsibilities with her mother and made sure he was there for all the things that mattered. But after his second stint in prison, things shifted again. He found work at a chicken plant, which is where he also found Mary, someone who cared deeply for him. They moved in together, and for a while it seemed like Charlie might actually be getting his life on track. The fire department even allowed him to rejoin, and there, Charlie excelled. His experience with cars made him invaluable at crash scenes. He knew how to take a vehicle apart, where to cut, how to get somebody out quickly and safely. He wasn't leadership material, they said. They said that he wouldn't take command of a situation, but he didn't need to. Where he excelled was following orders exactly. He worked efficiently, and when he finished a task, he came back ready and eager for the next one. Now, for most volunteer firefighters, one of the highlights of the job is going to a fire. There's adrenaline, a chance to play hero. But Charlie wasn't that guy. He liked the camaraderie, the sense of belonging. But after more than a decade together, Charlie and Mary ended up splitting up. And then an uncle that he was very close to passed away. And not long after that, his mother got sick, really sick. And Charlie, who had been clean now for over a decade, started using again to dull the pain. And that
Crack?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's like putting out a match with a fire hose. Like, to dull the pain.
That's what he said. And that brought his tenure at the fire department to its end. Charlie lost the camaraderie and the belonging that he had so loved about volunteering because he didn't know how to cope with his emotions. He went to Shuckers that night and saw Tonya Bundick, and he'd seen her there before. But Charlie didn't think highly enough of himself to ever go and talk to her. So Tonya sent a friend over to encourage him. So this time he did go talk to her. And that night she told him that she could not have somebody around her kids who used drugs. And so Charlie walked into the bathroom and flushed those 8 balls down the toilet just like that. Charlie was instantly smitten with Tonya, and the two started out casually, a physical relationship. But it did not stay casual for long. Charlie was head over heels in love with Tonya Bundick, and she seemed to feel the same way. Before long, he had moved in with her. And then Charlie opened his own garage working on cars. In the same building, Tonya opened her own clothing shop, going out clothes, as she described it. It was called A Tiny Taste of Toot.
You're gonna need to start like a focus group before you name something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's the best branding for clubbing attire, but we're gonna have to let that one go. And of course, they had a joint Facebook page, T-Char, and they'd start their comments with, "It's tea," or "It's char," and gush over each other. Vomit. I mean, adorable. Deeply nauseating, but adorable. But Charlie was deeply in love with Tonya, and Tonya wasn't exactly the open book that he wanted her to be. She would never talk to him about her past, her childhood, and that always bothered him. But eventually, he proposed in a restaurant, where he'd planned to take a knee, but he was too nervous and the restaurant was too crowded, so he just asked at the table. And she said yes, but insisted they keep it a secret until they could have a big, fancy staged proposal that she coordinated at Shuckers, the bar where they met. She even made them wear matching outfits.
She told him what to do to propose.
Yes.
And oh.
And of course, she said yes again. And the two started planning their wedding, a November rain theme.
Are you talking about Guns N' Roses?
I am.
No, why?
Wait,
That's awful. That's a terrible thing for getting married.
It gets so much better.
Does
Wait, I'm not even to the worst part.
she lay down in a coffin like Snow White?
Tonya told everyone that she'd be wearing that iconic, and let's be honest, slightly ridiculous, high-low dress that Stephanie Seymour wore in the November Rain music video. And in case you're too young to remember November Rain, the music video by Guns N' Roses, the bride dies in the video, so it's an interesting choice for a wedding theme. And of course, they plan to hold their wedding at the same bar where they met and got engaged for the second time. Shuckers. With 300 guests.
That's high class.
But things weren't all Guns N' Roses themes and nauseating Facebook posts. You see, life was hard. Tonya had been working as a CNA when she met Charlie, certified nursing assistant?
It is indeed.
But she had to quit because her eldest son was having serious problems at school. Big problems, and she was constantly being called to come and get him. They tried to take him to doctors and therapists, but things were not improving. In fact, they were getting worse. And opening the clothing shop wasn't really just about business, although it is something Tonya had always wanted to do, but it was about flexibility. It gave Tonya a way to be able to stay home and homeschool her son. Meanwhile, money was really tight. Charlie was always looking for extra work, trying to make ends meet. And people around them started to wonder exactly how they were planning to pay for this massive wedding. At one point, things got so bad, Charlie was dumpster diving behind grocery stores just to find enough food to feed Tonya and the kids. And still they carried on, going out to Shuckers, taking late night drives to get coffee at McDonald's after the kids were asleep at home. And that wasn't the only challenge in their relationship. Once Charlie admitted that he was in love with Tonya, he started having problems in the bedroom. Now, he went to doctors trying to figure out what was going on, why he suddenly couldn't stand at attention for her, if you catch my drift. Because this wasn't something he had struggled with previously, apparently. But the answer he got back was, this isn't physical, this is psychological. They told Charlie that he just felt like he wasn't good enough for her and he needed to get over it. Like he was too much of a screw-up. And that started showing up in ways that he couldn't ignore. So, mounting stress from the issues with Tonya's son, an estranged relationship with his own daughter after years of relapse, extreme financial strain, grief from the loss of his uncle, and then his mother passed too. The one constant he'd had throughout all of life's ups and downs, his one always supporter. And now, Charlie had Tonya, someone he saw as a prize, a gift, and he was head over heels in love. But with money problems mounting and growing frustration in their relationship, Charlie was living in a constant state of fear. Fear of not being able to provide, fear of losing her. Because in his mind, she was the only thing he had left. And Charlie would do absolutely anything to keep her. Anything. And that's a dangerous place for someone to be, because Charlie was about to prove his love for Tonya in a felonious way, or 80-something felonious ways. He was about to take a lack of fire in the bedroom and turn it into something very real, something very destructive, something that would burn across Accomack County, Virginia. And next week, we'll talk about the investigation and how Charlie and Tonya were finally caught. On Lit by Love, the Accomack County serial arson case, right here on Crime to Burn.
But did it work?
I'm going to tell you next week.
Was he able to get it up? I sent them a video of the beard bird. My son thinks I'm weird.
He should know by now that you are weird. It should not be a surprise.
Fix your mic just aiming at your boobs.
Maybe they have something to say. I have this windscreen in the way.
To remind you not to eat the mic.
The stickers should be here mid-April. They usually come faster than they estimate, though.
So do most people. Sounds like you're getting hit by a stun gun.
I can change your voice in post. I accidentally made you sound like a duck the other day.
Nice.
Do it.
Well, that's what we need to do is just one year decorate real good for Halloween.
Leave it up all year.
Just leave it. I think jack-o'-lanterns are nice for Thanksgiving. I think jack-o'-lanterns are nice for Christmas. I think jack-o'-lanterns are nice for New Year's. I think jack-o'-lanterns are nice for the 4th of July.
You skipped Valentine's Day.
I think jack-o'-lanterns are nice for President's Day.
But how do you celebrate Arbor Day?
A whole town full of beavers.
Encouraging you to keep your love-related crimes limited to stealing hearts.
Is that illegal?
No, that's why you should keep your love-related crimes to stealing hearts, because it's not illegal.
You have a crime that's not illegal.
Do I need to redo it?
No, I'm stalling because I don't know how I'm supposed to be today.
Oh, okay.
And I'm shot glass whiteboard. Felt like I was under some pressure there.
And you can steal our hearts by going...
If you do it just like that, you'll steal our hearts.
You can... Man, I'm just... I just had to get that
That's
out.
a good way to describe that.
Yeah.
You know, it's haunted down here, so...
Is Pat Sajak still alive?
The problem with being a time traveler, you can summon ghosts from the future.
Oh, great.
I felt Shakespeare's bones roll over in his grave.
Ooh, boned by Shakespeare, huh?
No, I just felt up his bone. He's not a vigorous enough lover for me. Well, never underestimate the staggering drawing power of sawdust on the floor. Well, that's a love story. Maybe this is a time where I should advertise for boner pills. I didn't think this day would come.
I see what you did there.
So what you're saying is they needed a bigger hose,
I don't think traction was an issue they were dealing with.
not frictionally challenged.
I don't think so.
Nowadays, we have booby traps and claymores. No,
They didn't use those.
I don't feel like you landed me. I ain't a fish.
I'm like
Jeez.
a barnacle.
Like you could have been a barnacle on a better boat.
You're the boat I like.
It's a dinghy.
I like your dinghy.
Only landings are going to be made by me, and they're going to be terrible.
Okay, well, if you stay out of trees...
I can't.
You haven't climbed a tree since you broke your ankle.
That's not true at all.
What?
What do you do when you fall out the horse?
You've climbed trees since you fell out of the tree and broke your ankle?
You're supposed to say, I don't know, Maury. I'm not a gymnast.
I don't know, Maury. I'm not a gymnast. You've
Of course,
climbed
I've
a
climbed
tree?
trees since I've broken my ankle.
Ugh.
Climbed that big U one up there.
What if you had fallen? I wouldn't have even known you were
I
out
would have
there.
died, dude. I probably would have been dead. I wouldn't care.
I would.
I know, but I wouldn't be there to hear you complain about it. It wouldn't matter.
I'm going to put a tracker on you so I know where you...
The
Be
you
like,
are.
I'm going to have it... Instead of being like your location, I wanted to tell me if you're more than 10 feet off the ground.
An altimeter.
I need an altimeter.
You know how birds do.
The dog, on the other hand, was like, I have never wanted anything more than I wanted that bird.
He did sound like he saw two mailmen fucking in the front yard.
I just remember the first time I saw the trash man, I only saw him from behind. And
You're like, damn,
and
man. You got
no.
some junk in your trunk.
he had long hair, and so I thought it was a woman. And I said to you, you said something about the trash man. And I said, I think it's actually a trash woman. And you went, well, then she has a glorious beard. I was like, I could be wrong. Not that there's anything wrong with women with beards.
No, all dwarf women have beards.
Anyway, the trash man's really awesome.
According to Tolkien.
And according to the dog.
No, I mean about the beards on dwarves.
Oh, right. I didn't know.
Tolkien never met the trash man.
We don't know that.
We do know that.
You, as a time-traveling ghost summoner, should know that there's a chance Tolkien could have met the trash man.
Me, as a time-traveling ghost summoner, have been there and seen when those two did not cross paths on any timeline. Duh. What's the difference between a supermodel and a regular model? Does one fly?
A regular model is anyone working professionally in modeling.
Mm-hmm.
A supermodel is
a model bit by a radioactive spider.
A supermodel is a model who has reached global celebrity status.
This episode's been brought to you by doing a little turn on the catwalk.
A quick PSA from Crime to Burn. If you ever find yourself in a relationship where you're thinking, wow, I would literally commit a felony to prove my love, that's not romance, that's a red flag. You are in a psychological group project that you did not consent to, and you're doing all the work. You should never be asking yourself, would this hold up in court? Or worse, would I look good on Dateline? And if the answer to either of those is maybe, it's time to exit the building, preferably before it's on fire. Stay safe out there and keep your love-related crimes limited to stealing hearts.
It's not a crime. You know what? Slash said fuck all that, left the church and just did a windy guitar solo and didn't have time for your bullshit.
I love Slash so much I dressed up as Slash for Halloween.
Why did all the guests hide under the table when it started raining? That's what I don't understand. It's like they were doing an active shooter drill instead of just getting rained on. Don't ever try to flip the table you're trying to hide under. Do. Bye.
Crime to Burn is a production of Crime to Burn, LLC, where we light fires in your brain and not your buildings. All rights reserved. Still spiritually parched after this episode? It's okay, Steve believes in cross-pollination. Here's a trailer for a show we think deserves to infiltrate your ear holes, in a good way. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review before you go. Steve is watching.
Welcome to Primetime Crime Podcast. I am your host, Kylie, and in this podcast, we are going to deep dive into some lesser-known unsolved true crime cases, from missing persons to unsolved homicides. This is the place where we are going to unpack it all, research it all, talk about it all, and try to bring justice to these families after all of these years. We are going to take it one story at a time, one case at a time, and hopefully justice will be ours. I hope you all will join me on this journey. You can find me at Primetime Crime, wherever you get your podcasts.